time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
My experience is you go into an arena, especially for a conference game, it's going to be somewhat hostile. It's going to be loud and it's going to be aggressive and it's going to be all those things. Especially when you are playing the defending national champions and you just beat them. It's not going to be, they're not going to throw down roses and welcome you.
Our defense in the third and fourth quarters, gave them some pause. I thought we were moving pretty good in our zone, and we'll take that from it. But how you make up 30 points that's hard. That's hard.
We got to take more leadership. Me, Chris, Sonny, and actually whoever is willing to take leadership has to take it. That's something we've struggled all year with, but I think that's one of the major issues.
Last two games, our turnover numbers have been down. Their assist numbers have been really high. They've shared the ball, and they've scored, and they've looked for each other and played well.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Friday night. We roll with the bouncing basketballs and one little football into the weekend. Lots of basketball, plenty of great golf out in Arizona, and one final football game to be played for this football season coming up on Sunday. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic here tonight. The Professor Tom Hayes has got his weekend off to a fabulous start. Brian Leonard is with us as well. You can join in. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Our email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Coming up, we'll talk a lot of basketball. Aaron Lucas will be with us tonight. We've also got a way for you to have some fun on Super Bowl Sunday. Lee Sterling will be here with his Sterling picks at 6:45. A lot of prop bets. People like to do that kind of stuff for the Super Bowl.
I love those.
What's your favorite one?
Well, the coin toss, obviously.
Oh, is that right? I don't know. I don't do that.
Coin toss. The anthem is always a big one as well. Who scores first? Sometimes people do how many wardrobe changes for the halftime act. A lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Have you got something down on the coin toss?
I always pick tails. It was one point in time.
Why do you always pick tails?
Because before the 50th Super Bowl, how many times it had been heads and how many times it had been tails?
I have no idea.
After the 50th Super Bowl, it was 25 times heads, 25 times tails, if you can believe it.
Really?
I'm not kidding you.
It's pretty amazing.
Going into last year, last year was 51. There had been 50 previous ones, and each one had 25 times.
So what are you picking?
Tails. Never fails.
Going to pick tails, like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, always pick tails. Well, it has to fail half the time.
Yes, Corn. I understand that, but that's the
Well,
phrase.
You just said it never fails.
That's the phrase. Tails never fails. That's what you're supposed to say.
That's like our boy Mike Morgan and his secret to winning at roulette at the gaming tables. Just always play the same color over and over again. It's eventually going to come up your color. But theoretically and mathematically, that's not true. It never.
Is that where the phrase "once you go black"? Oh wait, no, that's not. That's a different thing.
It's I don't know where that came from.
Something different.
It's mathematically and theoretically speaking, it could always just stay on one color the whole time. You could
Mike Borkin fancies himself a wagerer.
Well, he was back when we went to Omaha a few times together. He used to think he owned those roulette tables, that he had a secret formula.
Well, Riverboat Casino.
He did walk out of there with some cash in his pocket. I can remember that. Yeah. All right, so we've got a lot of basketball to talk about with you tonight. Coverage of last night's USC UConn women's not even really a contest.
Bloodbath. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah, boy, Connecticut looked they looked really, really good, and USC looked really, really poor. And is it because the talent differential between the two is still so great?
Yes.
Or is Connecticut just so good with what they do, it really doesn't matter the talent you have on the other side?
They had 4 players on the floor last night that could legitimately start and score for any program in the country. And They just happen to be at UConn all under one roof. Basically, from the standpoint of if you took the 10 players who were starting for both teams, UConn had 5 of the 6 best on the floor. And the only one that could possibly be on the floor with those at a given time would be South Carolina's Asia Wilson. And you'll hear Dawn Staley say this, but it seemed like Asia Wilson really took a lot of the pressure that has been foisted upon her and took it to heart, in that she shot the ball 18 times, only made 4, went to the line 8 times, making 6. They did get some good play out of Bianca Jackson last night, but too much one-dimensional offense from South Carolina and a defensive quarter in the second that they would like to forget when they were outscored 29-8. 61% is what UConn shot in that quarter, and that was the basically period of time that the Huskies ran away with it. Other than that, South Carolina played them pretty even in the second half, but it was after the deficit had already been pretty much in hand, and they played them also pretty even in the first quarter. So it all came down to one bad quarter, but a lot of that is due to UConn, and credit to them.
Yeah, humbling defeat for the South Carolina women, and things do not get easier for them because they have to go play at a very good Mississippi State team, which is, beating Connecticut would have been great. It would have really enhanced their national rep and their national standing. But really, the bigger game is Mississippi State because that's an SEC game. You're battling Mississippi State and Tennessee for the top spot in the SEC, and you got to go on the road. I imagine the hump for this game on Monday at 7 o'clock on ESPN2, I think.
Yes.
They'll have a huge crowd there for that game.
They will, and I don't know if you saw last night, the nightcap to the UConn contest was that same Mississippi State team going on the road to play, guess who? Missouri.
Right.
And they struggle with the Tigers going in and the physical style of play that they bring to the table. Almost lost that game, if not for Missouri head coach Robin Pinchton picking up an unfortunate technical foul because she was halfway on the floor because of a non-call on a travel. It was a poor call, but you can't cost your team in that scenario. Took the game from a 1-possession game to a 2-possession game, and Missouri could not overcome that. Mississippi State hits a big shot down the stretch, and they stay undefeated. And you're looking at a rematch of the national championship game from a year ago. I'm not saying South Carolina comes into it undermanned, but it's not as fair a fight as it was last year. I'm not saying that Mississippi State is on the level that UConn is, but they've narrowly faced a challenge this year.
Well, you got to give Missouri credit. I mean, Missouri's a quality basketball team.
Sure.
And there's no reason to think you're just going to waltz in there and beat that club with their style of play. So she's got them playing good basketball, and that's a very good road win for Mississippi State, something USC could not accomplish. And now we'll see if South Carolina can go on the road to Mississippi State and pull off a win. USC men play at Texas A&M tomorrow, trying to bounce back from their tough week at home with losses to Texas Tech and Mississippi State. And the Clemson men riding high now, number 3 seed by Joe Lunardi. He's got him number 3 playing Bucknell in Dallas.
I go to Dallas.
You know what, though? They keep winning. They keep getting closer to Charlotte.
That would be nice.
So a nice win over Wake Forest tomorrow. A Wake Forest team coming off a win over Florida State at home. As you heard Jordan Roper say last night here on the program, it's regardless of how you're flying in the ACC, when you go on the road, it's tough. And even when you're playing a team that doesn't have a great record, they do have some individual players who are really good, the home crowd, some confidence coming off a win over Florida State. Clemson's going to have to play its finest game to have a chance to win that one.
And they'll be facing one of the biggest players in all of the ACC in Darrell Moore, 7'1" guy, 280 pounds. He'll be a big test for Elijah Thomas. He outweighs him by about 50 pounds. He's also very, very agile inside for a big man. So it'll be curious to see how Clemson tries to collapse on him. It'll test Clemson's mettle a lot, but it's also a group that doesn't have quite the amount of experience that Clemson does, at least at the 3 principal scoring positions, the 3 guards.
All right, of course, signing day coming up Wednesday. USC got a commitment today for the 19 class from Jamario Holly, fine-looking wide receiver from Northwestern. We'll go into more detail about that and also kind of set the stage for you for what's ahead on signing day, who's out there for USC and Clemson, which way things might fall from where we sit. We'll talk about that as well in our recruiting segment coming up in our second half hour. 800-956-7266. Who wants to be first up tonight here on Sports Talk? We'll be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Friday afternoon, evening here on Sports Talk, heading into another great weekend with the Super Bowl, the PGA tournaments out in Arizona, which is always one of the great tournaments of the early part of the year on the PGA Tour with the fans and the 16th hole, the par 3, the stadium hole. So much fun to watch that, especially to me. I watch all that instead of all the Super Bowl pregame stuff. I love to watch the golf tournament on Sunday, especially when they focus in on the 16th hole. The fans are usually drunk on their heinies. That hole will have about, 60,000 people surrounding it, a huge number of people. And, man, I tell you what, you hit a bad shot, and for them, a bad shot's anything not within 5 feet. They boo you off the hole.
I'll have the NFL Network on at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
Is that right? You watch all the pregame stuff?
I'll watch every single
good.
second.
Well, you enjoy yourself doing that.
I'm the one.
By the way, our poll question of the week is who's going to win. It's kind of gone back and forth right now. 51% are picking the Eagles. Just under 49% are picking the Patriots.
Don't go against the GOAT, man. Everybody's hoping. It's all hope.
Well, I believe in the Eagles' defense. I think their defense is quality. I think offensively, I look for Jeffrey to have his big plays, his big moments. The running game with Philadelphia is very good. I think, it's hard to sit here and say, well, you can take this away from the Patriots, you can take that away, but I got to believe the Eagles are going to be sitting all over the short game, the short passing game for the Patriots, trying to take that away. Gronkowski now back, from concussion. He was in practice this week, so that'll be a big weapon that Brady will have at his disposal once again. But the pass rush from the Eagles is really good. Brady, for all his greatness, he's not the mobile guy that maybe he was a few years ago. Not that he ever was greatly mobile, but he was always
doesn't need to be.
He's always been able to slide away. But if you can take that short underneath passing game away or just stifle that some, you might make it tough on him.
They got the most uncoverable guy in football, and they've got the greatest quarterback to ever do it, and he's continuing to get better. He's got an offensive line in front of him for the first time in what seems to be many years, and that defense has improved significantly. I think they will do things to confuse Nick Foles. I'm not saying it's not going to be close, but I'm also saying that if you're going against the GOAT, you're doing it for anything else other than hope.
Yeah. Well, I'll still go with the Eagles.
Go ahead. Do your thing.
Yeah, I'll still go with the Eagles. And how many points are they getting?
4.5 last check.
Yeah, I'll take the points. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't need the points, but I'll take the points. I look forward to seeing what Lee Sterling has for us at 6:45 as far as his thoughts on the game.
All the money's coming in on the Eagles. I mean, that's the thing. That's why it opened up around 6.5, 7.5, and that's now down to 4.5.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our number. If you'd like to join in with us on the program tonight, if you were at the USC women's game last night, your thoughts on how that played out. UConn with the big win, your pick for the Super Bowl. Thoughts on recruiting as we wrap up the 2018 recruiting season. The dead period hits on Sunday, signing day on Wednesday. It's going to be a weird February signing day because, of course, we are used to having that day as being the day of action, the day of all the excitement. There'll be some excitement because around here, well, excitement on three levels. USC and Clemson, those two levels, they're going to have some guys deciding and announcing on Wednesday, but there'll be very few. But then all the other schools in our state who didn't sign very many players
early
in December, they'll have their big signing days on Wednesday, and we'll have all that covered for you here on the program.
And there's also some uncommitted folks who might be going elsewhere who are still unsigned in our state as well.
Yeah, there's a couple. Jalen Moody would be the primary one. Boy, that's a story. This is a guy that was practically overlooked by USC and Clemson, though Clemson has talked to him about a gray shirt opportunity. But he's got an Alabama offer. He's got an Ole Miss offer. He's got an Arkansas offer. Why would you not accept that over a gray shirt where you have to sit out a football season and then join the team on scholarship in January. My guess is he's going to take one of those others.
Wondering where Stephen Gilmore also ends up too, if he ends up anywhere.
Well, he'll have some walk-on opportunities, or he'll apparently have some lower-level opportunities at this point. Right now, my guess he's in Minneapolis to watch his brother play in the Super Bowl. That would be my guess.
True.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the number. While we wait for calls to roll in, let's reflect on last night's game. You were there. On television, the crowd looked really into it. It looked packed.
It looked like an NCAA tournament atmosphere from where I sat. I've gotten a chance. Funny, it both happened on February the 1st. I got a chance to see both Brittany Griner at Baylor when they played Missouri and UConn last night when they played South Carolina, both happening on February 1st, 6 years apart from each other. But this was a whole nother atmosphere. The unfortunate part for South Carolina's sake is that the atmosphere did not last very long. UConn took the crowd out of the game early, despite the fact that South Carolina trailed by just 8 at the quarter. We mentioned the big run in the second quarter, and Dawn Staley said her group just dug themselves too big of a hole that they could not overcome.
Obviously we didn't get the performance that we wanted, but, in these type of games, you got to take away, what went well. We all know what went wrong, but we had some things that went well, and if we get an opportunity to play them again, we will utilize those things.
How would you describe the second half then in terms of helping this team moving forward instead of just laying down? There's a lot more aggressiveness it's seen from your team's end to fight back, at least in that second half. Yeah,
I thought our defense in the second, in the third and fourth quarters, gave them some pause, and it gave us an opportunity to get out and score a little bit and not rely so much on our half-court offense. Well, you have to rely on your half-court offense, for 40 minutes is pretty tough. But from a defensive standpoint, I thought we were moving pretty good in our zone, and we'll take that from it. If we can get more performances like this from Bianca Jackson, who we've been trying to jumpstart to be more aggressive, it's only going to help us in the long run. But how you make up 30 points that's hard. That's hard.
Coach Asia said just moments ago that she apologized to everybody in the locker room for her play tonight. I saw you talking with her after the game, giving her advice. What did you make of her performance? Challenge double teamed a lot. They zoned in on her. And what can she build off of in this game?
Asia shouldered all the pressure, and that's hard. Of course we lean on her a lot, but she doesn't feel it. I thought she felt it tonight. I thought she felt she had to have a tremendous performance in order for us to win, and she did, but she didn't have to do it, in every play that she was involved in, and I think she felt it every play. But we got to give her a little bit of help. I don't think we could beat a team like UConn if, at least 3 or 4 of our players don't, get the double digits and don't put the pressure on the ball that we need to not allow them to score as many points. But it's been a long time since I've seen UConn, shoot 28% in the third quarter, 31% in the fourth quarter, 40% for the game. So they don't do that a whole lot. So we got to hang our hats on something, in this kind of defeat.
That's Dawn's third worst defeat for Staley since being at South Carolina, all 3 of those coming against Connecticut.
Well, it's just UConn being UConn. I mean, we went over some of the most recent results for them last night going into the game. I mean, they are annihilating everybody they're playing. Now, we know they play a bunch of weak sisters in their league, but it really doesn't matter at this particular time. They just look so good last night. They just look talented. They look well coached. The offense that Ariama runs is it's beautiful to watch. The cutting, the dribbling, the post play, the passing out of the post, the backdoor cuts, and then they D you up. That zone defense they run at you 2-3, 3-2, 1-2, whatever it is. They really make it tough on you to sit outside and get comfortable shooting 3-pointers.
And they spent a real concerted effort to collapse down on Asia Wilson. You mentioned what they do on offense. The passing is developed via trust because of the fact that all 5 of those girls are on the floor at any time. They're McDonald's All-Americans. They know that they all could go off at one point or another. Kia Nurse had 23 points. she might be the third best player on their team. So in that regard, UConn has the ability to beat you the way other teams can.
All right, we'll be back. 800-956-7266, the number here on Sports Talk.
You mean $350 for Elton John's Too Rich for Your Blood Corn? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'll buy the album when it comes out.
Have you seen him perform?
I've seen a fake Elton John perform.
Oh, that's right.
An impersonator
on your cruise.
On a cruise who was just as good as Elton John. You
No.
close your eyes, you would have
No.
thought you were at an Elton John concert.
I have seen Elton John perform.
I'm sure you have.
And no, we did not have dinner.
I'm sure you had backstage passes.
I did
and
not.
Probably went in his dressing room.
Did
Probably
not.
gave him a back rub.
I did not.
800-956-7266 is our number. Let's go to Nick in Columbia. Nick, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks for calling in.
Good. Hey, yeah. Hey, I went to the game the other night, and I went to the Missouri game as well.
Mm.
And I don't want to be chastised for saying this, but Gina Oriema's offense, those girls were crisp. They were disciplined. They were tight. The passing, the cutting, as you guys said. Well, I've never seen a guys' team look so disciplined and good. I didn't see it with us at all. There was nothing. They were sloppy. They were not squaring up when they were shooting. And what I saw during Missouri, and I saw it again, it seems like their only offense setup is just to throw the ball inside to Asia and have her go up with it. But when those girls are collapsing on her, she rushes her, she's throwing it up off balance. They need to bring her to the top of the key and spread that floor out a little bit so the other bigs can get inside. But I was very disappointed in the discipline of our team. I love our girls. I think Dawn does a great job, but I've never seen them so sloppy like I have in the past 2 games.
You're not saying anything incorrect. You're not saying anything incorrect, Nick. And that's the problem right now when you're dealing with no Cuevas Moore and no Lindsey Spann, and you're having to run things basically through Asia Wilson. Asia Wilson basically has to play, in essence, 2 different positions. She has to play power forward and basically point guard at the same time because of the fact that she is really the only person who can create offense off the dribble and on her own. I know that they're very, very high on the ability of Ty Harris, but she's a neophyte. It's hard to kind of get her to expect her to bring her game to another level when it comes to a school like UConn on the other side. I know that they like what Alexis Jennings brings to the table, but again, she's only helped by when you have somebody to be able to flank her in the front court, like an Asia Wilson and a Lindsey Spann. So where South Carolina is right now, they're very limited. And a lot of what they can do against teams that are lesser than them is throw that ball down to Asia Wilson and have her get 32 points and 20 rebounds and have games like that, and they can run away and hide and also get open shots against teams that are slower defensively. When you play a quality team like a Missouri or a UConn or a Mississippi State or a Texas A&M, you're going to have to find more diverse ways to score, and there's no 2 ways about it.
All right, thanks for your phone call. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Coming up tomorrow, Clemson plays at Wake Forest. Tigers coming off their win over North Carolina, feeling pretty good about things. They should have Mark Donald back, I would think, for this game against Wake Forest. South Carolina tomorrow plays out at Texas A&M. Guess we'll find out there. I don't know. Did he make the trip? Do we know if Corey Holden made the trip?
No word on Corey Holden and no word on Justin Minaya either for either of those guys. So we'll see. It's odd looking at this South Carolina team without Justin Minaya, and a lot of what they do defensively is built around his ability to guard the head of the zone. And South Carolina, their biggest issue right now is they're getting completely torched at the guard positions when it comes to defense. And there's nobody who you can put on the defender, or nobody you can put on defense that can take driving ability and that can take physical play. Big guards give them issues. And you're going to see 2 guards at Texas A&M and TJ Starks and Admon Gilder who are able to make things happen off the dribble. And you have a very strong front court flanked by DJ Hogue and Tyler Davis, who are seasoned players. The experience at Texas A&M is something that would worry me very much if I'm Frank Martin in the Gamecocks.
A Texas A&M team that got off to a horrible start in SEC play. They lost their first 5 games. They did play at Rupp Arena to a point, losing to Kentucky 74-73. Had to go to Tennessee the next game, lost that one by 13. So, that kind of was a kick in the teeth for them. They recovered to beat Ole Miss and Missouri at home, then lost at LSU, then lost at Kansas in the SEC Big 12 event, bounced back with a win against Arkansas last time out by 14 at home, and now the Gamecocks are coming in for a game tomorrow. Really a difficult challenge for a South Carolina team, which has been on the proverbial yo-yo this season.
Yeah,
wins at Georgia, a win at Florida, but tough home losses, 3 in a row, just not able to find that consistency. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the guard play has been really inconsistent. It looked like for a while that Myers was going to take over that point guard position and give them some solid play. He did not play well the other night, or really the game before that. He's had a couple of rough outings since that Florida game when he was so good, and people were starting to acknowledge that. And Frank Martin started talking positively about him. Then he sort of regressed a little bit. Hassani Gravett still's not giving him real good play at the point guard spot. So they are definitely struggling there. Minaya the other night, not having him hurt both offensively and defensively. They need to hope that his foot is okay and he's able to play tomorrow. Even with him, it's going to be a difficult task for them against a team that's got some good size, as you mentioned, especially 6'10" player in the middle. They had trouble with the big guys against Mississippi State the other night, and you mentioned the size of their guards as well.
And the other thing, too, that would give South Carolina a little bit of hope is the fact that this Aggie team doesn't really have a quality win since November. I mean, they beat West Virginia to open up the season. They won at Southern Cal at the end of November, but ever since then, they basically had wins over also-rans and losses in games that they had to play up a level. They don't have a victory in conference play against a ranked opponent, and they really only have one win in conference play against a team that's projected right now in the tournament, and that's Missouri. And Arkansas is basically sitting on the bubble right now. So if you're South Carolina, you have a better resume coming into this game than Texas A&M does, but you right now are dealing with some negatives on your side that might be too difficult to overcome with no Minaya and no Corey Holden and just the overall way that you've been playing right now.
You know, we pointed out the other night before they played Mississippi State, the Bulldogs had 117 blocks going into that game. They had 6 against the Gamecocks. Well, A&M's got 132 blocks.
It's a lot.
So they're even more dangerous if you try and go inside. It's going to be heavy on Chris Silva to have a big game, stay out of foul trouble, but you saw how hard he had to work to score inside against those big guys from Mississippi State. Let's go to Hank in Columbia, continue on the phone lines here on Sports Talk. Hello, Hank.
Hey, I was calling in. I wanted to give my assessment of the game last night.
Sure.
You know, UConn had one of those quarters that is just, you know, that second quarter they were on, and whenever they're on, they're tough to beat in any given year or any given game. You know, they have games, if you watch them all year long, that they don't shoot as well as they shot last night. But they do, you know, they're consistently at a level where you gotta, if they're on like that, you gotta be able to score. And that's our scoring dropped the second quarter just due the team. I think part of the second quarter to me, I think it's more so effort. I think you had a number of young girls having to play because basically our experienced girls who were back were all sitting over there on the bench. And some of our better girls, you know, you have 2 McDonald's All-Americans sitting on the bench watching the game for us. And so, and those were girls were big last year. You know, remember up in UConn last year, I think we went into the fourth quarter with a 4-point lead on them, but you had girls that used to seeing them. And last night I just thought some of the young girls for a second in that second quarter got caught stargazing. And once they got caught stargazing, they got blown out. But you know, that's a learning thing for them. If Van gets back, I think the team will be all right. I know, you know, this is not our strongest team, but you got to have. We found out last year when South Carolina has an outside threat, then it really throws off a lot of all that doubling and stuff that they're doing on Asia right now. So,
well, don't think for a moment that during their shoot around prior to the game, maybe their practice the day before, they didn't look up in the rafters and see that national championship banner hanging down and think to themselves, you know, that should have been ours last year. We didn't get our shot at South Carolina. We'll get it tonight. And they proved it. There's a pretty big divide between those two teams right now.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put them in the field and let them fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no stamps. And if you don't got money, you want some money. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler.
Show them the next item up for bid.
Been a little while since we visited with our good friend Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports, going back to the end of the college football season, the bowl season. Good to have him back with us one more time for football, which technically is for the 2017 season, though we're playing it here in 2018. His thoughts on prop bets and the Super Bowl itself. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing well, doing real well. In fact, feeling real good. I was on Radio Row for a couple days. When I left yesterday, it was -4 in Minneapolis. So 80-degree change. It's 76 right now.
I think we saw you on radio. Weren't you the guy in the fight on Radio Row? Wasn't that you?
I was there. I was right there watching it. Interesting situation. That guy Josh Ennis was originally, at Houston. Then he moves on to Philly and could have been one of the biggest guys in radio, and he gets fired for.
Well, he's back in Houston now.
He's back in Houston. We got fired for Philly. He had the top show, or the second highest rated show in the city within like 6 months of going on in the afternoon by himself, and then blew up, attacking the other station and people, and then started attacking the Philly fans. So the wrong thing you want to do, and then I don't think you want to infuriate someone like Seth Payne. That's a big boy.
No, you don't.
He sounds like it. All right, so what are you looking at? You want to talk prop bets first? You want to talk about the actual line?
Prop bets. Let's start with some of the fun ones. It all starts with the national anthem. Pink singing it. Never done it before, as far as I can find. I was searching high and low on YouTube and some other venues to find if she had ever done it, and couldn't find anything. So I'm probably not going to play the total as far as 2 minutes in length, but how about this? I thought it was interesting. You can bet on the color of hair that she's going to come out. Did you see that one?
I saw that. I think I was looking at a line, white or blonde is -300.
Yeah. Also, you got pink at plus 200.
Got it.
So I'm going to go with the pink or the red. Ooh. And you want to venture out and take a real shot. We know she likes the Eagles. She comes out with green hair. You can win 5-1 on that one. So, and then on top of that, you can even do kind of like a piggyback bet if you think that she's going to say Eagles at any time from the time she steps up to the mic, either before, during, or immediately after the national anthem, something like "Go Eagles." You can return another 3-1 on your wager. So for me, I'm going to go with the pink hair, and then she shouts out "Go Eagles" after she finishes the national anthem.
What if she shouts it out like during the national anthem?
That also that
counts.
does pay it back.
As long as she's on mic.
Or after.
You don't play the coin toss, do you, Lee?
No.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I've never done that. Have you?
I play it all the time, and I always go tails.
Now, have you got a super?
Well, covered the last 4 years, so. We know who's going to be paying for lunch. Huh?
Have you got a secret super formula for determining which way to go on the game line itself?
I just study these games. I'm usually not influenced by one game. I do think, though, that maybe this is Philly's year, and read along with me. Do you guys believe in karma?
Yeah, to some degree.
No, okay. I believe in data. I'm a data guy.
See, I'm a karma guy. I believe sometimes things are just meant to happen.
Okay. So I believe when I look at these two teams, New England has by far the best quarterback.
Yes.
It maybe has the second best player in Gronkowski. Philly might have 8 or 9 of the next 10 best guys. So I think Philadelphia's, if they don't, cave like Jacksonville does. Jacksonville, that game was there for the taking. All they need to do is keep running the football. They were wearing New England out.
And maybe get a call go their way.
No, got no
That's
calls.
never gonna happen.
Especially from. I love the referee at the end of the game congratulating Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's a
on
little
his win.
scary. That's a little scary when you
That
start
is
thinking
scary.
about this. Where's that guy this weekend, huh?
But how about this? I think this game is going to play out differently. Normally, New England starts slow and comes on. I think they're going to start fast. I think they're going to use a short passing game because they probably feel it's going to be tough for them to sit back in that 7-step drop and have a lot of success with that pass rush. So I think they're going to try to hit them quick, a lot of short passes, go to Gronkowski a lot. I like Gronkowski at over 5 receptions. I also think that their defense might be able to play well in the beginning because I think that they're a little more rested now. But Jay Ajayi, under 85 rushing receiving yards, I don't see him getting to that number because I think they're going to play 3 back. So I like Rob Gronkowski getting more than 5 receptions. I like Jay Ajayi under 85 total rushing receiving yards because I think LeGarrette Blount will play a bunch. Also, they'll use a third down back, Corey Clement bunch. And then if they have that lead and Philly can settle in, then I think their offensive and defensive lines might end up having success. And if they do that, then you've got Nick Foles settling in, and he's a rhythm guy. You know, for a couple of years, he really hadn't done anything because just not getting any reps even in practice. So he certainly played his best game. If he plays average and throws 1 interception or less, I think they've got a good chance of winning. I think they're going to come from behind and tie the game with 5 or 6 minutes to go in the game and then win it on a field goal on the last play. And the karma is going to kick in because remember, New England, first Super Bowl win. We know that they were videoing the St. Louis Rams practices in the stadium before the game. We know that Deflategate took place. Whether it, made a difference in the game, probably not, but we know they were trying to cheat. And then on top of that, a little bit of smug in your face to the Atlanta Falcons when they were trailing 28-3. They put 283 diamonds in the ring. So I think this is going to change the entire landscape of the NFL. This is my prediction. And they lose the game, the Patriots, and by the end of next year, Brady and Belichick retire.
I think Lee is using his heart more than his head here.
Hey, real quick, any prop bets? Any prop bets out there involving Jeffrey on the Eagles side, Gilmore on the Patriot side?
Jeffrey, I like. I didn't see anything with Gilmore, but I saw one first touchdown. 3 guys I like. You want to take a shot, an 8 to 10 to 1 shot to make some money because you hit that first TD, it's going to set up for maybe a nice payday if you're playing these props. Alton Jeffrey plus 900 score the first touchdown.
I'm big on God being the first mention for Super Bowl MVP, especially if it's Foles because he's a big God guy.
Hey,
right.
Tell everybody how they can go and get all your good stuff heading into the Super Bowl.
Well, they want to get gave you the game there, and my biggest play is probably going to be on the total. They want to get the total. My top 10 prop plays. Use coupon code SAVE100, just $97 for all that. We had a great run in basketball. Basketball only had 5 losing days since January 1st. One of the greatest seasons ever. As you know, in football, we won 17 out of 21 weeks this year. Probably one of my top 3 years in my 26 years in business. So it's all available, ParamountSports.com. And I actually even have an NBA game tonight. So if people want to get involved with the basketball, give them tonight's game for free in the NBA. All they need to do, just call me here at the office, 800-400-9741.
Listen, man, have a great Super Bowl weekend. We thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to getting back with you sometime down the road here in 2018.
Yep. Sounds good. Let's do it before March Madness.
You got it.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to see the Patriots lose more than I do because I grew up watching them inside my division. But I've just come to an acceptance. They're the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're the greatest team of all time, and I just accept their greatness. I bow down to you, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
They're good. They're good. Not going to take anything away from them.
The greatest team in professional sports.
But you know what? They almost got beat by Jacksonville at home. Philadelphia looked so good last time out. That defense, I'm leaning on the Eagles. They're going to win it.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday night. From downtown Columbia, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic here tonight, along with Brian Leonard. It is a night off for the Professor Tom Hayes, getting his weekend, his Super Bowl weekend. It's in his contract. He never works Super Bowl weekend. We're going to talk some more hoops here tonight on Sports Talk. Last night we had give. How about tonight a little go?
They're playing basketball. We love that basketball. They're playing basketball. We love that basketball.
Welcome in Aaron Lucas to Sports Talk, the former Gamecock star, assistant coach over at Lower Richland High School, among other things. Who you guys got tonight?
We've got AC Florida tonight.
Oh, that's going to be
intra-city rivalry.
An interesting little matchup there, right? How is Christian Brown playing for you guys?
He's actually done well early on in the season. He had to miss a few games due to some injuries, so we're just kind of getting him back, getting him in shape, and hopefully he can continue to grow as a player and continue to make progress.
And he's facing his old team tonight.
Facing his old team, which I'm sure is never easy, but at the end of the day, it's still a game of basketball.
Real quick, before we talk about Gamecocks, you being a kid of Columbia, playing high school ball here, now coaching in the city, how do you see the state of high school basketball in Columbia, in the Midlands area at this point?
Well, I think, when you look at the landscape, it's starting to pick up. When you look at teams, of course, like AC Florida and what Lower Richland has done historically, and then you incorporate teams like Ridgeview and Westwood is starting to come along as well. Spring Valley. I mean, so you can name several teams in the Midlands, even your private schools now, Cardinal Newman and Ben Lippin and Hammond as well. So I think the talent is improving. I think guys are taking it more serious. Obviously, the summer times with AAU is a big influence as well. But, when you have local stars like, your Seventh Woods and Jalik Felton coming out of the Midlands, it helps the younger kids become a little bit more motivated and obviously get more hungry to try to do what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
To the Gamecocks, Aaron, who are entering College Station on Saturday and Reed Arena to take on the Aggies. Gamecocks 4-5 in the conference. The Aggies 1 game behind. It was a big loss on Wednesday, that of Justin Minaya. Can you explain, as a basketball student as you are, just how big of a loss that was for South Carolina and why their defense looked to be a step slow and a step behind with him out of there?
Well, anytime you lose one of the guys that you go on the foxhole with, it's always difficult. Justin was providing some good minutes off the bench. I think one of the other things that we have to keep in mind is his length and size at 6'4", 6'5". So his presence on the perimeter was obviously missed the other night. And, it's difficult for guys to make those adjustments because now certain guys are getting a little bit different minutes, are expected to do a little bit more in his absence. So it's always an adjustment. I think we've been dealing with that throughout the season, especially when we are peaking. It seems like we have an unfortunate incident, an unfortunate injury that kind of slows us down a little bit.
We were talking about the guard play, and Frank Martin made a point after the game the other night to point out that guard deficiencies, both offensively and defensively, it looked like for a while there that Myers was going to step up and handle that point guard spot well. He had that nice game against Florida, but things have kind of regressed for him the last couple of games. You see anything in particular going on there? And where does Frank go if Myers can't refine what he had and Gravett can't improve? Where does he go moving forward with the point guard position?
Well, I think Wesley has shown obviously signs, and he's got the maturity being a fifth-year senior. But I think as he improved and started getting more time on the floor, now he has to make that second adjustment, which is how do I incorporate my success now still with the philosophies of what the team has been doing up to that point. So, I've talked to many people about that. They're asking the same kind of questions about Wesley, and it's just, when you're playing a certain way throughout the season and all of a sudden things start clicking for yourself individually, how do you still incorporate that? So I think some of the shots that he may have passed up early on, he's starting to take, and that may not necessarily work in the flow. So it's, he still have to adjust and try to change his game, adjust his game with the success he's been having recently.
And how do you like what Evan Henson is doing right now? I know in one game he gave them a big lift, and from that point he's been starting. Statistically, he's not giving them a lot of numbers. His shooting's not particularly good. I know he's a nice body in there and can help you size-wise with that body on defense, but they need offense. I mean, is it time to go back and shift Myers back to the 2 and put Gravett back at point and go that way, or do you like what he's doing with the lineup the way it is right now?
Well, I think Evan brings obviously that toughness that Frank is used to having out on the floor. And, of course, that's why he's getting a lot of the minutes that he's been getting. He doesn't bring a lot of chart stats, so to speak, so things that people are looking for, but he brings, again, that toughness, some of that leadership from the team from last year. And again, his presence on the floor makes a difference. Now, you always need a guy like that. I think Justin Mackey played that role a couple of years, or last year, and in years past, where he stepped in and did all the little dirty things and all the things that you need to be an efficient team. So I think Frank is going to stick with what he's doing. Obviously, he has to get the guys back focused on what the task is, and obviously with losing Justin, with people, incorporating new minutes, then, they just have to refocus and guys have to step up now.
Aaron, I'm going to steal the thunder from one of our earlier callers, but he was talking about the women's game, talking about how the South Carolina offense was too Asia Wilson dependent, and to corollary that with the men's game, do you think that South Carolina's offense is too Chris Silva dependent?
At times, yes. I think we look to Chris, and Chris has delivered. So, rightfully so. But I think to a certain degree, we have to have somebody step up and be a little bit more consistent. I think Frank Booker over the last couple of games has shown the ability to put the ball in the basket, but, he's not a guy that's going to create off the dribble. So, if we're able to find somebody that can at least create opportunities for other guys to get those shots, again, we're looking at a Wesley Myers and a Hassani Gavette to be able to create opportunities off the dribble, so it's not a half-court set offense where we're just trying to pound the ball into Silva and then hopefully Frank Booker and be able to knock down shots after an inside-out type of play.
Do you think maybe it's time to put David Beatty out there in more of a functioning role and more important role and give him more times? He showed some good stuff the other night against Mississippi State. He is a guy that can get a shot on the dribble on his own and can also get to the rim.
Again, that would be, I would say, a question for Coach Martin and the staff. I think David is, again, shown flashes of his ability, but again, in the same token, he's still a freshman. It's a long season. He still has to learn how to play at this level. But I think, overall, the guys have done well. It's just those small plays. I think the biggest thing that's been slowing us down at this point is not necessarily the offense. It's our inability during stretches to play defense. Which is our bread and butter.
Yeah, which is probably something that's hurt Beatty trying to come in as a freshman and learn those defensive principles. We'll let you get to your game. We don't want you to miss tip-off. That would be embarrassing. So we thank you. Did you ever lose a tip, by the way? Did you ever lose a jump ball? I doubt it.
Oddly enough, at 5'11", no, I don't think I did.
You had some hops. Probably still do. Good luck tonight. Thank you. We'll get with you next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
See you now.
David Beatty's, the reason he's not out there is not because he can't score. It's because his defense is inferior to what Frank Martin thinks he can do out there.
I get that. But he has got to find some more scorers out there. You made a good point. They're too Silva heavy. Even though you want Silva to do well, you got to find some other options.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Thanks again to Aaron Lucas for being with us tonight. So we had a little give portion last night with Jordan Roper, a little go portion tonight with Aaron Lucas. Hopefully next week we'll get them together. That's the whole idea, give and go together.
Kind of why we like that.
But then sometimes it can't happen. They're both businessmen. They both have things going on, but it's good we can get them on to talk about their respective teams. Recruiting in just a moment.
At least they both have good phones, unlike some of our other segments. Yes,
absolutely.
Looking at you.
Well, it's a little more intelligent when you're dealing with basketball players versus former helmet heads, if you know what I mean. Hey, check out foundersfcu.com. Learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. All right, let's get to the recruiting. We got a ton of it as we head towards the last weekend. Boy, I can't remember. I guess it's happened. The last weekend, no official visits for USC or Clemson this weekend, heading into Super Bowl weekend. The last couple of days of the live period, dead period begins on Sunday. Couple of days to sit back and, reflect. Maybe not relax if you're a coach or a player. You can still call them. You can still text them. You can still Instagram them. As Belichick would say, face snap them. You know what he says? Face snap?
My face.
He tries to combine the two to act stupid. He's not that stupid. I mean, come on. He wants to come across as the dummy, as the guy that spends, 180 hours a week in his office and never pays attention to social media.
Corn, we're on to Philadelphia.
I do love his press conferences.
We're on to Philadelphia.
I do love his press
conferences.
conferences.
The game is in Minnesota. It's in Minnesota.
All right, here we go. Recruiting, a lot of things to talk about. Will Muschamp will get the final in person with defensive lineman Rick Sandage of Concord, North Carolina tomorrow. Shrine Bowler, Under Armour All-American, is down to Gamecocks in Georgia. Bulldogs were in Wednesday. Muschamp and company go in tomorrow. Coach Glenn Padgett said Georgia came to the school Wednesday, met with him for about an hour. Then they went out and had dinner with the family. Then they went, of course, in home. It went well. The Bulldogs seemed to open up Sandage's eyes on his official visit there last month, supplanted North Carolina as the strongest threat to USC. The Gamecocks have long been perceived the favorite because of family ties and regular visits for camps and games, though Sandage is never publicly named a favorite. Of course, there's reasons for Sandage to like both. Georgia, of course, played for the national championship. Program has really taken off. And South Carolina, according to Padgett, another program that's much improved. Plus, this is big. He said South Carolina has made Sandage feel like a priority. He's been a focal point for them, a big focal point, he said, for what Muschamp wants to do defensively. And he said from a young man's point of view and a parental point of view, that's very appealing. He has to wait until Wednesday to announce. No time has been set, but the school traditionally holds its announcement ceremony in the afternoon. Wide receiver Justin Ross, Phoenix City, Alabama, had his final face-to-face meeting with coaches this afternoon, and they were the coaches from Auburn. Clemson had its in-home earlier this week. Alabama was in last week. He'll choose one of those three and announce at 1:15 on signing day on ESPN2. His coach, Jamie DeBose, said that he is comfortable with all three. It's going to be a difficult situation. Of course, he said Clemson and the coaches, Sweeney, Scott, Bates, made their final pitch to Ross. He said the Tigers have done an outstanding job. He said it's the best recruiting job he has seen in his 25 years of coaching. He's very much impressed with what Clemson presented to Ross. Trying to get a diamond out of the state of Alabama, away from Auburn and Alabama, that's not easy. The coach pointed out that maybe Jameis Winston was one of the last really big ones to leave the state, but it comes down to a family decision and where they feel comfortable. He made his official to Clemson back in November. He went to Auburn and Alabama last month. Two-sport prospect, defensive back Trayvon Flowers of Tucker, Georgia, wrapped up his Clemson official this afternoon. Then he hit the road for Knoxville. He'll be there this weekend. He's also a middle infielder, and he had extensive meetings with Clemson safeties coach Mickey Kahn, head coach Dabo Sweeney, and with the baseball coaches. Say he liked the facilities and the people. He said Clemson wants him bad. They need help at the safety spots, and he thinks he's pretty much a priority. They want me bad, he said. Met with Sweeney this morning before leaving campus, likes him, thinks he's a good guy. Flowers only played a season of high school football, and he said the Clemson coaches liked what they saw of him on film as a strong safety. He takes the visit to Tennessee this weekend, then decides between the Tigers, the Vols, and Kentucky. He originally signed with Kentucky for baseball last November, but he was released from that. And he says he's got 3 schools at the top, but he said Clemson is up there. Probably will make his decision by Monday, but likely won't announce anything until Wednesday. Defensive John Mintz of Homerville, Georgia, met this morning with USC defensive line coach Lance Thompson, but that's not the end of the activity for the Gamecocks. This afternoon, Travaris Robinson was at the school meeting with folks. Now, the player, Mincy, he couldn't meet with him because Mincy has a basketball game tonight. You can't meet with a player within 4 hours of an activity. So he couldn't meet with him, but he could meet with coaches and be around the school. And then Thompson and Robinson are going to Mincy's game tonight, which is in McRae, Georgia. And Robinson plans to talk to him after the game. Tennessee coaches, including head coach Jeremy Pruitt, made their final visit with Mincy on Wednesday. It's one of those two, USC and Tennessee, not going anywhere this weekend. According to his assistant coach, who's close to him, Don Tyson, he said Mincy is like, both schools are kind of equal, one or the other. He has a gut feeling about one, but he hasn't disclosed that. He also indicated to his coach, Mincy did, he may be ready to make an announcement as early as Monday instead of waiting until National Signing Day. And according to Tyson now, this is the coach talking. He was with him on his visit to USC last weekend. The coach feels like South Carolina is the best place for him. He says it's much like South Georgia. He thinks Muschamp and the staff are going to recruit a lot of the same type of kids that are similar to Mincy, small town South Georgia, country boys, quiet, not big city kids. And the coach says, I just feel like John would thrive in that environment more than he would in other environments. He feels like he fits in there, but it's his decision, and he'll support him wherever he goes. But that's a bonus for South Carolina there to have a coach close to him, kind of on their side with this thing.
Egging him on a little bit.
Conway linebacker Jalen Moody has drawn the interest of Clemson. The Tigers have offered him a gray shirt opportunity, but Nick Saban of Alabama was in this week and offered. He's taking an official there this weekend. He also has been to Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Georgia State. 4 Ole Miss coaches were in to see him this week.
It's a heavy presence.
Yes, it is indeed. But that's what they do here late. So the Tigers kind of trying to land themselves a linebacker here late. Of course, as Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated reported, they've gotten back in on Dax Holyfield, hoping to salvage that situation if they can. It might be, again, a case of too little too late. Stanford, Virginia Tech, North Carolina have been the favorites there.
Shoulders fine.
Clemson is in the top 6 with running back Devin Ford of Stafford, Georgia. Others on his list are Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Penn State, Oklahoma, North Carolina. Clemson target defensive back Patrick Surtain of Plantation, Florida, will announce at 10 o'clock Wednesday on ESPNU. Defensive back Von Ramsey of Greenwood committed to the Citadel. Defensive end Palmer Story of Daniel to the Citadel. T.L. Hanna, offensive lineman Kavez Sherrard to Colorado State. Rock Hill, offensive lineman Devin Cannon to Catawba College. Dorman receiver Jacoby Pinckney was offered by Oklahoma. USC and Clemson target defensive back Jamie Robinson of Cordele, Georgia, was visited by Michigan's Jim Harbaugh at his school on Thursday. Of course, South Carolina today got a commitment this morning from wide receiver Jamario Holly out of Northwestern. He is one of the state's top receivers going into the 2018 season, had 75 catches last season for about 1,300 yards. And we'll talk more about his commitment to USC when we come back. And we'll also give you a few more recruiting notes looking ahead to this final weekend of the 2018 recruiting campaign. We'll give you that when we come back here on Sports Talk. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Friday night. Coming up, we're going to hear from a couple of the Gamecock basketball players getting ready for the game at A&M. We'll hear from David Beatty and Mike Coates here on the program. Let me continue with recruiting, heading into the final weekend of the 2018 recruiting campaign. I'll get to the junior commitment for the Gamecocks in just a moment. Let me finish up what I was doing here. USC Clemson target defensive back Jamie Robinson, Cordele, Georgia, had Jim Harbaugh by his school on Thursday. Clemson offered 2019 offensive lineman Andrew Kristofic of Gibsonia, Pennsylvania, 6'5", 255, and several more USC offers in the 2019 class. Running back Keelan Robinson of Washington, offensive lineman Melvin McBride, 6'4", 315 of Memphis, defensive end Lloyd Summerall, 6'6", 218, Auburndale, Florida, 2020 receiver Michael Wyman of Greensboro, 2020 offensive lineman Chris Morris of Memphis, and 2021 quarterback, that's right, 2021 quarterback Tevin Carter of Memphis. Apparently he is a highly impressive young 8th grade quarterback.
8th grade we're going down.
Is that right? 2021 would be 8th grade, I think. Maybe going into 9th grade. Let's see.
We're going down to 8th grade. To get
2019 is a senior. 2020 would be a junior. So 2021 would be a sophomore. So that would be, am I right about that?
That'd be 10th grade, Chief.
10th grade. I read 8th grade somewhere. 9th grade. Maybe it was 9th grade.
Well, you have that lot of math,
2018. Well, no, wait. The 2018 class.
They're seniors now.
So 2019 is
juniors now.
2020 sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
2021 freshman.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was right.
That's a 9th grader.
Well, going into his 9th. Would be a 9th grader. Coming off his.
He's a 9th grader now.
Well, coming off his 8th grade year, now he's in the 9th grade. Whatever. He's very, very young, but apparently very talented. Now, today, USC got a commitment for the 19 class for receiver Jamario Holly, 5'10", 165 out of Northwestern. That's the 6th commitment for the class. He also has early offers from Kentucky, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, and East Carolina. He was at USC's junior day last month. That got the ball rolling towards his pledge. His coach, James Martin, said he really enjoyed it, saw where the players live, saw the facilities. They'd been in the locker room before prior to the state championship game they played in 2015. Had a good meeting with the coaches. As far as the player, he had 75 catches, 1,178 yards, 18 touchdowns. His coach said he has the ability to catch the ball wherever it's thrown. His hands are awesome, has the ability to get open in one-on-one situations, able to get away from defenders when needed. And once you get the ball in his hands, has great vision and a gear to get away. First skilled position player to commit to the Gamecocks for the 19 class. Now, the other day, offensive lineman Lamarius Benson of Covington, Georgia, decommitted from USC after having been committed since March. I talked to him last night about it. He said, quote, "It's all a business. I ain't mad at nobody. It's a lot of stuff behind what made me decommit. A person would not just decommit for no reason, but I want to keep that on the down low." But he said, "I didn't feel wanted by South Carolina." He said he started to get that feeling around mid-December. He came out for his official visit last month, feeling that he needed to look elsewhere. He took an official to Central Florida, and he committed to Central Florida today.
That's the kid who they said that he needed to get in better shape.
Well, here's what he had to say on that. While taking the high ground on the issue, he admitted the decommitting from USC was disappointing. He said his grades and his physical condition should not have been issues for him, as has been rumored. He said, quote, "When you've been so loyal to somebody, to some coaches, it's disappointing being loyal, and they tell me not to talk to other schools for a year. I guess they thought I wasn't going to get my test score. I got my test score. My weight is at 315, the weight I'm supposed to be at." End of quote.
Could be the distribution of weight might not be where they want it to be.
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, we can only get one side of the story.
Fat. Muscle is heavier than fat.
As for advice he would give future recruits, he said, quote, "Don't commit early. People can switch up on you. Don't commit early." So That is his story. You know my feeling on this. It hasn't changed. I think it's a terrible thing to do, to pull a scholarship from a player simply because you've over-recruited and you maybe don't have room, if that's what's happened here. I don't know. His position is, according to the kid, he's now committed to Central Florida. We'll see what happens down the road. He says he's got his test score. He's got his weight where they wanted it. You know, if they took a commitment from him in March, told him not to talk to other schools, which he did not. He didn't take any other visits before visiting South Carolina and getting the cold shoulder. Then he visited Central Florida because he had to find someplace else to go. I think it's a terrible thing to do by a coaching staff if indeed this scholarship was taken away because they just ran out of space and needed to take somebody else.
In my opinion, you do whatever you want until the guy has to sign on that dotted line.
Okay, well then you're a bad person.
I'm not saying I'm not a bad person. I'm just saying that's the breaks of the game, man.
You don't treat kids that way. I'm sorry. You can act like it's a business and cold-hearted. You don't treat kids that way.
You got to win, don't you?
No, you don't treat kids that way.
You like to win, right?
You don't treat kids that way.
I like to win.
Well, it comes back to bite you. It comes back to haunt you. At some point in time, you get a reputation. You treat kids the right way if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's all I'm saying.
Who is this service for?
If you
service for the kid or service for the school?
What do you mean?
Are they committing at the behest of the school, or is the school committing at the behest of the kid?
What do you mean?
Who is this supposed to benefit more? Is it supposed to benefit the school more or benefit the kid more as far as that goes?
Coaches say they do it for the kids.
Well,
they're supposed to benefit the kids.
Well, I know
in the recruiting circles, when they're sitting in the living room, they're telling those parents, we're going to take care of your kids. You're going to give me your son.
I'm not naive.
4 or 5 years, and we're going to take care of him.
And I'm not naive to think that it's a load of BS, personally.
I don't care what you think. I don't care if it's a load of, it's not right. If you've taken a commitment from a kid,
no one's telling them to play football.
If you've taken a commitment from a kid in March and you hold him to that commitment through December into January, and then 2 weeks before signing day,
what if a kid
you tell him to go away?
What if a kids do the same thing? It happens both ways. It happens all the time.
I get it. You know what? The kids aren't making $7, $8, and $9 million a year like the coaches are, and the coaches can always go to other kids. Kids can't always find other places to go. In this case, he found a place to go in Central Florida, someplace where he was wanted.
No one's gonna cry for him. Go to Central Florida.
Well,
it's a very fine place to end up.
You know, and you're right. My point is, you know, the fans are hypocritical. You know, when you commit, they love you. They want you to be a part of the program. They send you all this stuff on Twitter. Great to have you. As soon as they find out that something is amiss and you might be going somewhere else, of course they turn on you and you're yesterday's garbage, sort of like you're behaving here.
I'm not
behaving
like garbage. I'm just saying I know the way things work. It happens.
Doesn't make it right. Just because it happens doesn't make it. Do you not see a difference between right and wrong? Just because you're saying just because it happens, then it's okay. We let it happen. You can't you can't put a value on it, good or bad.
You can't obviously see that somebody's value could change over the course of a year. What if somebody doesn't keep their weight? What if somebody doesn't do something within academics?
Why do you wait until January? They came in on January. It would be January 20th, the second. Third weekend in January. Why do you wait until then?
Probably looked at him and said, "You know what? You haven't have your weight in order.
He says his weight's in order. He says he's at 315.
It's in
which is what they wanted him at. He says he's at 315.
In the eye of the beholder, Corn.
315 is 315.
I understand the way 315, but 315, muscular 315 is different than maybe a fatty 315.
You know what? Whatever happened to getting him into school and getting him into shape and getting him on a diet and getting him into the weight program? He's not going to play as a freshman anyway. You redshirt him. And you build them up. That's what a weight program is all about.
They have a priority for different people.
Now we're getting to it. Finally, we get you to the truth. They punted him because they need room for other people.
What's wrong with that?
Everything. It's morally wrong.
Not until they sign them. Until you change the process to making verbal commitments a binding thing, then there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, well, that's where we disagree. I think it's terrible to use a kid and toss them away like that.
I don't think they're being used.
If that's indeed the case.
Being used once they get inside the system.